Yeah, I like to.
All right. Hello, everyone. I can get everyone's attention. We just want to welcome everyone to the May 31st. Yeah, 31st, not the 30th, 31st, 2023 Zoning Committee Work Session. I am Philip Gussman, the Chair of the Zoning Committee. And everything's on. Yes, okay. This was streamed online on YouTube in accordance with statute. Requirements for notice, access, and minutes are being met through electronic means. We ask that everyone keep mics muted when not speaking. And keep the room is very full today. Please state your name when making a motion or a second to my committee. Little explanation of the zoning process. I'm aware some folks might not be that familiar with it today. The public hearing on the rezoning cases that we are reviewing today have been held by City Council and Zoning Committee a few weeks ago or previous months. This meeting is not a continuation of that public hearing process, so there will be no public input unless the committee has specific questions. I'd like to now introduce my zoning committee. We'll start down with Terry, if that's all right. Work this way.
Terry Lansdale, Zoning Committee.
Melissa Gasting, Zoning Committee.
Douglas Welton.
We're also zoning committee.
And Dave, you want to kick off and manage staff intros?
Sure, Dave Pedden, Planning.
Michael Russell, Planning Staff.
Only planning staff.
Max Oliver, Planning Staff. Jacob, CDOT Staff. Saul Fortune, Planning Department Staff. Joe Mangum, Planning Staff.
Holly Kramer, Planning Staff. Raquel Dominguez, Planning Staff. Anna Aliati, Planning Staff. Emma Canarajas, Planning Staff.
And what staff do we have online?
Patrick
Isaiah
Monroe,
Washington.
Scott staff.
Isaiah Washington, Charlotte Department of Transportation.
We got
Travis
Isaiah.
Miller.
All we heard was Isaiah and Travis intro. Anyone else? Patrick, Drew, can you introduce?
All right, I thought I did. Patrick Monroe, CDOT staff.
Drew Itter, CDOT staff.
All right, thank you. We got that covered. Moving in, Dave, you got any deferrals we want to talk about?
We've got, let's see, I think 6 deferrals listed. None changed since the publishing of the agenda. So we've got 2021-209 by Coastal Acquisition Entity LLC, 2022-048 by Tribute Companies, Inc., 2022-099 by Levine Properties, 2022-152 by Vinroy Reed, 2022-156 by Graystar Development East LLC, and 2022-109 by Urban Trends Real Estate, all requesting deferral to our meeting on July 5th.
That'll be a busy one. Anyone make that motion for me?
This is Commissioner Welton. I make a motion that we accept the referrals as read by Dave.
Commissioner Russell, second.
Properly moved by Walton, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. Those are deferred. All righty. See if we can't move right along here. We are down one commissioner, so I will follow the schedule and see if our guest presenter here can help us out. Number 7, rezoning petition 2020-027 by City of Charlotte and Crosland Southeast. Innovative request, pardon me, not innovation. Solomon.
Yes, this is an innovative request. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. Happens. Technology.
Yeah.
And I'm finishing. I love it.
Solomon, could you go ahead and just define what an innovative request is?
As you guys know, as part of the MX district, it's a conditional district. Those are typically, as you guys review them as they come in. The developer will sometimes ask for innovative requests and their innovative modifications to requirements. As part of that, on the original rezoning, they will list out the type of innovative requests they have. But as part of that development process, they will sometimes come back. Developers will realize they may need a different innovative request. So typically what we do is when they submit, we will make sure that they are meeting all our standards and processes in the zoning ordinance and making sure that someone's not asking for an innovative request that we know. We try not to bring those that we just don't agree with or have questions about. We don't bring those to committee until we have the chance to sit down with the developer and the applicant. As part of that process, typically here, you guys are just it's very rare because I think the last one we had was 2 years ago. So when I've had a look back, typically what you guys do, you're just making a motion just to either approve or deny the request. And then typically you can ask if you have questions about the request that I walk through, then you could do that. And that's typically how we do that process.
So because sort of these days, right before our UDO implementation, we asked this of a lot of folks. How would this type of request be impacted by implementation?
Typically, I think from an implementation standpoint, since it was, I think this area is MX2, so it would really be similar. It would be the similar lots, similar lot size. It's not like we would make sure as part of the request, we make sure that you're not doing something that, just doesn't line up.
Perfect. I think that's your show.
That's what show. So
Go ahead.
if you can go back to the aerial real quick, please, I'm sorry. So that way you guys can get some context for us, you guys know, this was the old Eastland Mall site, Central Avenue, there's a Meadow portion, and then there is an MX2, which allows for single family and townhomes. So this is the MX2 portion in question here. This is the old, like I said, Eastland Mall site, Meadow, and some other commercial uses here. Central Avenue, like I said, you know where it is. If you go to the next slide, please. Again, this is the conditional site plan showing the areas. There was 3 development areas. So like I said, again, the innovative request is just for this MX2 portion here. This is kind of the request here. The areas in kind of pink, they are asking a building separation to be reduced to 10 feet, from 16 to 10 feet, and these areas kind of noted here. They are also asking for a single family lot width reduction, lot area, reduced from 3,500 to 2,700 square feet. And that's again for the single family homes, which are outlined on this side of the portion view here. And as you can see here, then they're also asking for a reduction from the minimum lot width from 40 feet to 27 feet, which is standard for all lots. And then they're also asking for, there was a conditional note on the plan that required that they had a build-to zone. What they're asking for here is to reduce that build-to zone. They'll still be meeting the setbacks, but they won't be any greater than 25 feet. And I believe this is to accommodate some streetscape, also some utilities, things that have to be done. And then also for some of the corner units highlighted in pink here, they are asking for a reduction to allow for 5-foot rear yards at the end and corner lots, which is a reduction from 30 feet to 5 feet. And what that does is because, again, some of these are alley loaded, and you can see what would happen if we made them meet the full setback. Some of those lots and buildings just not shelved. As part of that, and if you go to the next slide, again, here it is. That's what they're clearly asking for. Again, going down here, 16 feet building separation, 16 to fen. That's typically standard if you think about a single family home, 5 and 5 on the side yard. So that's not aggressive. Here, 3,500 down to 2,700. That's about the size when you start thinking about infill, some type of urban residential project. That's about what it is. Lot with 27 feet. Again, that's a standard when you're doing that urban infill. Single family side yard reduction from 5 feet to 3 feet. Again, that's not an issue. Typically, we make sure we clarify with fire to make sure that there's no issue for fire. Fire has said that they don't have an issue with that because they still have to be fire code and building code. So we're like, we're okay. Again, single family setback, built to zone, more than 6 feet from the setback, but no greater than 25 feet. Again, that came from the conditional plan that was originally approved, which we didn't have an issue with that because again, for single family, obviously when you're talking about larger urban buildings, we'd get them up to that sidewalk. But when you got single family, you have to start getting in utilities, things like that, transformers, and that kind of makes sense when you're doing that single family. And then those in units is reduction from 30 feet to 5, as you saw when they're doing alley loaded products and some public streets, just to make the form, that's better. And we didn't have an issue with that. Again, staff recommends that the zoning committee approve this request. For right now, there are no outstanding issues, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have.
We have at least one. Douglas, go right ahead.
Solomon, this is Commissioner Walton. Is this going to result in more units being developed here in terms of, or change, the density, or is it the same density, just?
So it's the same density, it's more for form and kind of some of our regulations. So it's more of a because form. So we're not reducing anything and they're not getting any more than what was originally approved on the conditional plan.
All right, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? I will say I'm happy to see progress when the Eastland site when we have the opportunity. If anyone has no further questions or comments, I'd like a motion.
This is Commissioner Walton. I move that we recommend. Do we recommend this? We recommend approval of the 2022-027 innovative request as it's presented to us by staff.
This is Commissioner Gaston. I second that motion.
Okay, and just to confirm, we don't have a specific legal language we need to read like we do on normal rezonings, right, for this? This is thumbs up, thumbs down.
This thumbs up, thumbs down, straight.
Perfect. Properly moved by Walton, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimous. Thank you, Solomon.
Thank you.
Go build Eastland, would you?
That's not me.
No,
Thanks, guys.
thank you. So that was 5-0. Moving right along to item number 8, rezoning petition 2021-120 by Marina I tried to say this once before. Merginos? Anyway. Dave, I presume? Still
Yes.
playing the role of Claire?
All right. So 2022-120, it's about half an acre, 0.45 on the plaza. It is currently zoned both split zoned O2 and B1. So the O2 is the purple portion, B1 is the red portion there. Policy map calls for neighborhood 2. And the request is to maintain the existing building that's on the site. So if somebody does an existing convenience store that's been in that neighborhood for longer than I've been in Charlotte for 23 years. So I don't know how far back it goes, but it's been there a long time. So maintain the existing building and allow all uses in the NS district by right. And that building is about 2,300 square feet. They would maintain the existing parking, limit building height to 40 feet. Does prohibit things like fuel sales, drive-through uses, arcades. Does propose vehicular access through one of the current driveways while closing the northernmost driveway, which will clean up some access concerns. Does commit to a 10-foot multi-use path and 8-foot planting strip along the plaza, as well as remarking current bike lane pavement to a dedicated right turn lane and then a bike ramp near the south property line to allow for some transition for cyclists from the separated bike lanes to the multi-use path, and then extend that 10-foot multi-use path to that southern property line. Also commits to striping dedicated right turn arrow per CDOT pavement marking standards, as well as dedication to 50 feet of right of way that does not if it does not currently exist No significant changes after the public hearing, mainly just addressed any outstanding issues we had during that meeting. Staff does recommend approval of this petition. It's inconsistent, and they do feel the neighborhood center continues to, serve the neighborhood with the use that's been historically there in that community there in Plaza Midwood. So staff doesn't have any significant concerns with that inconsistency, and we do recommend approval, and we'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Terry, go right ahead.
This is Commissioner Lansdale. A question about and this is for CDOT potentially. There are three options when we talk about transitioning from a protected bike lane to a 10-foot multi-use path. But I don't see any language in here about the through cyclist operation within the roadway right-of-way. We are not at this parcel requiring cyclists to exit the roadway at this point. Is that correct, CDOT? Sorry, Jake. I'm used to seeing you up there. I was looking up there for you. Sorry about that.
I'll let my staff handle questions tonight.
Yes.
I'm just making sure I got the question right. So you're just trying to figure out if we're unloading people to the plaza, or if the ability for them to get off into the plaza is there?
I'm a cyclist traveling on the plaza within the protected bike lane. At this point, I have a choice to follow the path to a 10-foot multi-use path or continue on in the lane of travel on the roadway. Is that a continuation option at this point?
Yes, so there is an option for you to get onto the multi-use path from the plaza.
No, I'm asking for a confirmation to stay on the road at this point. If your destination is 20 feet beyond this parcel, would require you to be on the road to make the left turn. We are not forcing cyclists off of the roadway right-of-way onto a mixed-use path. Is that correct?
So at this portion, we are removing a portion of the bike lane for the multi-use path in order to gain more storage when in the road, after talking internally with our implementation team.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Wilson.
Dave, a question of consistency here. Is neighborhood services NS inconsistent with N2?
It is. It's probably more in the neighborhood center, which I think is what we had. It's for transition to a neighborhood center.
It'll be neighborhood center, okay.
So neighborhood service, neighborhood center has some similarities. Neighborhood services to NS is not consistent. You might allow some of the same use, but.
Okay.
Retail and non-residential.
Which on out the plaza, that's the neighborhood center. I was trying to pull up the map and I haven't gotten it up yet.
Neighborhood center just across. And where this where the gas station is.
Yeah.
Provide that neighborhood service. What's exists on Gage store.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one. Can we go back to the site map? Specifically in the notes of this one, it says dumpster to remain in current location as shown on the plan unless required to move. Is the dumpster location the little CONC next to the building? The only community feedback I got on this that wasn't already addressed by our code was the dumpster next to my brand new townhome. I don't see dumpster clearly designated.
Certainly, if that we want to add a conditional note to include that in the discussion, we can talk with the dumpster. Have the dumpster located behind the building or somewhere that's a little more confused.
Property line. Let's do, can we do, what do you want from me to do that?
I think just as part of this discussion,
Perfect. Excellent. That's all I needed then, honestly. I will just say that for a store that was a problem for quite a while, we're excited to see the buildings, the neighbors are excited to see the building stay and maintain that character in this area. So happy to see it's not a drive-through also. Any other questions? All clear? Anyone want a motion?
It's Commissioner Russell. Our motion. Having reviewed review petition 2021-120 and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition 2021-120 as it appears before us and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
This is Commissioner Gaston. I second that motion.
Probably moved by Russell, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. To have an explanation of why I voted no on this petition, this is Lansdale. Bicycles are considered vehicles by law and have all rights and responsibilities to the roadway right of way per state law. In lieu of restricting that access at this point with this design to allow the storage of private property within the public right of way, I have concerns about the designs of this particular project. Thank you.
Got all that? Thank you. All right, we'll move right on to item number 9, rezoning petition 2021-213 by Goldberg Companies, Inc. John. Mike.
This is approximately 42.85 acres on the south side of Pineville Matthews Road and east of Hugh Forest Road, west of Reverdy Lane. This went to hearing a good while back, but and they've been working with the community and CDOT since then to address some of the concerns and issues that were presented during the hearing. The site's currently developed with the apartments. It's zoned R12 MFCD with multifamily conditional zoning, and the proposed zoning is just a site plan amendment to that existing rezoning plan. The policy map also calls for neighborhood 2 place type for the site, so it's consistent with the recommended place type. This is the proposal that you saw during the public hearing that basically would redevelop the western portion of the site. There's, I guess, 66 existing units on that portion that they would redevelop with some new units. Go to the next slide, Emma. I'll just go through what's changed since the hearing. They reduced the number of units, the number of new units from 300 to 278, resulting in a combination of a total of 778 existing and new units on the site. They reduced the total number of sorry, that should read buildings. That's my fault with the typo. Reduced number of buildings from 8 to 5 in that development area, and increased the landscape building and parking setback along Hugh Forest from 75 feet to 260 feet. That was one of the neighborhood concerns, was that buffer along Hugh Forest. And they also provide a number of transportation mitigations that were identified in the TIS, including new and expanded turn lanes along Pineville Matthews Road and at Hugh Forest and at Echo Forest Drive. And if there's questions about what exactly those changes are, then CDOT would be best to answer those. Next slide. Staff recommends approval of the petition. There was a small technical revision related to transportation that's shown in the agenda, but the petitioner has since emailed us saying that they would address that. So there's no outstanding issues. It's consistent with the 2040 policy map, and we would recommend approval of the petition.
Thank you, John. Questions?
Again, questions.
Lansdale first, then Russell.
Thank you. This is Lansdale. Questions for CDOT again, just to confirm that on these public right-of-way on U03A and U03A local residential wide, on the 2 public streets, that is a confirmation, if you could, for me, that there is on-street parking, the storage of private property in the public right-of-way for this parcel?
Yeah, the public roads within the development are U03A, allow by our standards on-street parking.
Thank you. And I appreciate the design and opportunity to have a 12-foot multi-use path along 51. This would represent a significant change in public safety along a highly traveled cow path at some points along the corridor. Thank you.
Question for CDOT. So I see that there are some changes that are going to be made to Echo Forest Drive to prevent traffic from traveling straight across 51 into Providence Road High School. And I can understand that based on conversations with the petitioner and reading the notes, you're going to end up with a right out or a left turn lane. But since this road, Echo Forest Drive, connects now to Hugh Forest, everybody that lives on Hugh Forest is going to come up, and instead of going to 51, they're going to take Echo Forest and come out to go into the high school and just kind of drop their kid off right there at the intersection. So has CDOT looked at increasing the length of the signal to allow more people or pedestrians longer to cross? Because there's no area of refuge in that street. So is that a consideration of CDOT to increase the signal length?
So the existing signal timing should accommodate the necessary walk times for pedestrians, but certainly the retiming of signals and evaluation happens upon implementation of improvements and things. So it's something that's constantly evaluated, not specifically in our review of the traffic study or as part of the petition, but it's something that would be reviewed in the future to ensure that pedestrian crossing times are adequate.
Yep, thank you. It's just a concern of mine that, seeing something similar in another part of the city where you're going to have an increase in pedestrian traffic, and especially with the 12-foot lane, we need to make sure that we're taking pedestrians into consideration and on such a busy road. So thank you for that answer.
Any other questions? Comments? I'll say that this took a significant step forward as they tucked in some of the parking as well. I thought that was another nice development. I like the number of the changes that have been made since the last time we saw it. So thank you. Anyone have a motion they'd like to make?
Commissioner Walton will make a motion. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-213 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Russell, second.
Properly moved by Welton, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is 6-0. Moving right along to item number 10, rezoning petition 2022-084 by Mission Properties. Michael.
Too far.
Was I too fast?
Do you just want extra time like Solomon got?
Oh, yeah.
My thing's a little off here. Yeah, so this is approximately 20.85 acres located along the south side of Ridge Road and north side of Interstate 485.
Okay.
The current zoning is R3. The proposed zoning is R17 MF. The 2040 policy map calls for neighborhood 1. So this allows up to 213 single-family attached townhome-style dwelling units. It limits maximum building height to 48 feet.
This one down.
They do commit to constructing turn lanes along the site's public street frontage. They're committing to a 12-foot multi-use path along the site's frontage of Ridge Road. They're providing a 50-foot Class C buffer abutting single-family homes. They're providing open space, which will include a minimum of 2 of the following amenities: clubhouse, combination of hardscaping, softscape, pool, cabana, benches, and seating. And they are providing architectural standards, including building materials. Some of the changes after the public hearing, since you've seen this petition before, they've added publicly accessible park area, which will include a public tot lot. They've added private walking trail connecting the urban open space. They're dedicating an area on the west side of the Ridge Road frontage for a CATS bus stop, and will contribute $7,500 to CATS for a bus shelter. And they've increased the separation to 60 feet for adjoining property where there is a existing single-family home. The petition is inconsistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for the neighborhood one place type. However, staff does recommend approval of this petition. Be glad to take any questions.
Questions? We'll go with Douglas first. Are you welcome?
Commissioner Walton, Michael, this is inconsistent because of form, correct? Because there are 4s and some 5s in there, I think,
Right.
correct? But the policy map going forward is translated to N1 currently. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the R3 will translate.
Right, to N1. Okay, so we're inconsistent, but in this particular case, putting these 4s and 5s is acceptable.
Yes.
All right, just wanted to clarify, I ask you these consistency questions. My thing. Thank you.
Mr. Russell.
Yeah, I think this question is probably going to lean more towards CDOT. So this one, I'm conflicted on this one because I have a bunch of concerns, but I think the form is correct. I'm still not sold on the location. And that's what I want to get at with CDOT. So I know that previously we approved directly north of this parcel, the King's Grant 300-acre proposal for warehouse storage. And if I remember my map correctly, at that second arrow to the furthest most right, red double head arrow, that is also where the traffic is going to come out from Kings Grant. And if I remember correctly, that road is going to be the one that tractor trailers are going to access the most. So have provisions been made to make that road safe? And then second to that, have we taken in consideration that we've got a lot of truck traffic in Charlotte and that we end up with a lot of trucks parking on the side of the road? So what mitigations do we have to prevent trucks from parking on the side of Ridge Road, which is 2 lanes in this area? So 2 questions. What are we doing to make the road safe? Second question is, how are we preventing trucks from parking on Ridge Road?
Well, the King's Grant entrance is actually, I guess you would say, planned west here to the left side of what you see on the screen. So the site access points don't, they're not right across from each other. So they're not interacting the way that I think you're seeing this here. The second thing is for this site, they have 2 dedicated right turn lanes that allow for their traffic to get off of what you see currently, which is the 2-way road here, or 2-lane road rather. So it allows for traffic to get into that dedicated right turn lane and go directly into their site. As far as trucks parking on the roadway, I believe that's more an enforcement issue. That's not really something that we get into as far as the parking there. I know this is an NCDOT roadway, so they do post signs of no truck parking that you see in various locations around the city. However, I'm not sure if NCDOT has those posted on Ridge Road.
Thank you for that response. And then one more question, drilling down onto the turn in lane. So you got a double, I guess you got a straight lane and then a turn to the right. Is there a median in that road or is it just striping?
So currently there is no median in this road. These site access points allow for left turns into the site. So you have a through lane. You can't see it that well on the screen, or at least I can't see it that well on the screen. So, but you actually have 2 through lanes and a left turn lane. So these site access points allow for dedicated left turn lanes into the site. So if you place a median there, then they become, just right in, right out, which doesn't allow for traffic on the other side of the road to get in. So short answer, there is no median.
Thank you. And then one question to Michael. I see on one of the outstanding issues that there was going to be a 1 acre dedication to the county, but that has been rescinded. Was that by request of the county or the petitioner?
By the county.
Thank you.
It was offered, county just turned it down basically, right? Not to,
I believe it had to do something with the street networks and
Right.
the availability to access a public park.
any other questions? No? Well, you know what I'll ask next. You want to make a motion?
This is Commissioner Gaston. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-084 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Commissioner Welton, I'll second.
Probably moved by Gaston, seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? No. We are 4-2 on that. And you guys wanna, who wants to take the first shot at this?
I'll let Commissioner Lansdale take first.
Back to Lansdale.
Oh. Okay. All right, due to outstanding, in my opinion, this is outstanding transportation issues and the impact of this property on the trips per day for the state road, Ridge Road. I have concerns about designs for this particular parcel. I kept it open for you.
Thank you, sir. I will echo those concerns. This one is a conflict for me because I think it is still somewhat of a pioneering location. I think the form works, and I think if it had been anywhere else, it would have been a lot easier discussion. But I'm concerned about that and transportation and infrastructure, and particularly how people are going to use this, because there's no there other than just housing. So between the housing and the potential conflicts with heavy trucks driving that 2-lane road, that led me to a no. But I do thank the petitioner for their work and their effort in trying to make this a better project. I do think that what they did was an improvement.
Thank you. Michael, you good? Perfect. Moving on to item number 11, rezoning petition 2022-136 by Vision Ventures. Holly.
Thank you. This site is just 1.64 acres located along the east side of Catalina Avenue, just south of West 28th Street and north of West 26th Street. The current zoning is R5 for single family residential, and the proposed zoning is to go to UR2 conditional. I'll also note the site just to its south and east is also under UR2 conditional, which was a 2021 petition. The 2020 policy map recommends neighborhood 1 for this area. And the proposal itself is for up to 26 single family, or will really act like really family units, but it's townhome styles units on parcels that are currently vacant. The buildings with frontage along Catalina Avenue may have no more than 4 units per building, so they'll be quadplexes at the most, and will have a maximum height of 38 feet. There's also a larger setback than we would typically see in UR2 for this petition. It was 33 feet at the public hearing, and they've revised it to 27 feet just to building envelopes that were dipping into that setback. So the building envelopes haven't changed at all. They just modified the number of feet for that setback. The buildings to the rear will be a little bit denser. They can be no longer than 150 feet in length and will be up to 46 feet in height with a maximum of 7 units per building. There will be a Class C buffer along the northern and southern property boundaries, 8 internally located guest parking spots, as well as 10 on-street parking spaces along Catalina. There will be 2 that it will be accessed by, and commits to provide 8-foot planning strip, 8-foot side planning strip along Catalina Avenue, and internally 5-foot sidewalks. And there are some architectural standards, and that's pretty much it in terms of the actual proposal. Since public hearing, that main change that I already mentioned to you was the change in the setback. That was a outstanding issue that we had listed just to not have building envelopes dip into the setback. They also relocated the proposed screen and solid waste and recycling area to clarify that it won't be within 5 feet of the property line. Staff recommends approval of this petition. There are no more outstanding issues. It is an appropriate site to see a little bit denser residential development here. It is within a mile of Camp North End as well as some other commercial areas along the edges of NODA. So there are some service areas that the residents could walk to realistically. And it is between a neighborhood 1 and neighborhood 2 place types, and generally is along that transition line of more single family residential uses to the north and west and more denser residential forms to the south and east. So that is why staff recommends approval of it, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions? We'll go Lansdale, and then Walton.
This is Lansdale. I got a question again for CDOT about the storage of private property on public rights of way and the petitioner's desire to have on-street parking as a part of this development. And I appreciate that there is on-street parking. I don't know why we'd want to have that on this particular public thoroughfare in lieu of an 8-foot planting strip and an 8-foot sidewalk. We know that this parcel is connected to a back of curb sidewalk that is very small. We appreciate that investment in an 8-foot sidewalk and a planting strip, but to have this incredible setback of 17.5 from center line plus a 27 to the building setback for back of curb inside the parcel, I just can't get behind on-street parking on public rights of way, especially not roadways of this size. Thank you.
Gaston, go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner Gaston, this is in my neck of the woods. And so I did attend the meeting as well as some other community members, and the petitioner worked with the community about their concerns and made sure they addressed their concerns. So I am in full support of this because the community is in support of this as well.
Walton.
My usual question about consistency, again, this is in something designated to be N1, but it's right up against N2. And we've got 3s and 4s on the roadway, is what you're saying.
Yes, so the building forms along Catalina Avenue are technically within neighborhood 1's, what neighborhood 1 would support. But if you look at the development on a whole, that's inconsistent with neighborhood 1.
Okay.
The building forms to the rear are certainly not a neighborhood 1 supported
Yes, so
building form.
because there are like 2 4s on Catalina.
Yeah, so there will be no more than 4 units per building along Catalina. Some of them are shown as triplexes right now,
Okay.
or 3 of them. 3 out of 4 of them are shown as
All right.
triplexes right now. But it is inconsistent because the development on a whole is in alignment with a neighborhood 2 type of development rather than neyborhood 1.
7-unit buildings and back.
Yeah. I mean, I drove up, and Commissioner Lansdale, I your point. This, and it may have just been the time of day that I was there, but this road was not heavily traveled. And I would think that, I live in a neighborhood where you put the cars on the road because it kind of slows those people down coming through that aren't observing the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I would think that that would be somewhat of a positive of passive traffic calming. But I understand your point. Have a different point from my point of view on that.
Oh, sure. Commissioner Lansdale. So when we have on-street parking, even on low impact roads, low volume roads, the opening of the doors into the roadway right of way would cause a safety hazard. It's called dooring. And in most states and some communities in North Carolina, we do have dooring laws that try to protect the most vulnerable road users from people not respecting their obligation to yield to existing users on the road. So having on-street parking in lieu of bike lanes, separated bike lanes, bicycle facilities, active mobility facilities within the public right-of-way for private property storage, when this development is increasing its parking density within the parcel, I have troubles with that design feature on any
public roadway. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Point taken.
Russ?
So, following up on that parking, so this has guest parking interior to the site. So is the on-street parking being added to meet zoning, or is that just something that the community asked for?
No, it's not being added to, they aren't adding on-street parking to meet the minimum. They meet that within UR2 with the garages that they're providing. It's more than likely a request from the community. That's what I see in a lot of the UR developments, frankly. Commissioner Gaston, I don't know if you heard anything about that at the community meeting when you attended.
Commissioner Gaston, very familiar with the street. There's cars that currently park on both sides of the street. Currently, because of the single-family houses on the other side, I don't think this was a concern for the community at all in regards to that, because they do want to have the on-street parking so that it doesn't, so perhaps the people on the other side will not park on the other side as well. So it's there.
Perfect. And then probably one last question. Correct me, is the setback going from 33 feet down to 27 feet?
Yes, it's going from 33 to 27. The building envelopes haven't changed at all. The only thing changing is the invisible line on the actual site plan, because they had their building footprints within that setback, which cannot be allowed under the zoning ordinance. So they just had to shift that invisible line a little bit, but the actual building footprints haven't moved at all.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion would be in order then.
This is Commissioner Gaston. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by the staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-136 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Commissioner Welton will second the motion. Welton on the motion.
Moved by Gaston, seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed?
Still opposed.
We are 5-1. Lansdale, go right ahead.
Again, I want to express concerns about the dedicated public parking on the roadway right of way for Catalina Avenue. Thank you.
Excellent. Moving on to number 12, rezoning petition 2022-160 by Pendler Development LLC. Joe.
Thank you. This is just over 24 acres located on the south side of Mount Holly Road, east of Creston Circle. The current zoning is a mix of I-1, B2, and R3. The entire site is within the lower Lake Wiley protected area. Proposed zoning is R12 MFCD, maintaining that watershed overlay. The 2040 policy map recommends neighborhood 1 and manufacturing and logistics for the site. The proposal, it is now 268 multifamily residential units as opposed to 288. Building height would be limited to 48 feet, committing to National Green Building Standard bronze specifications, establishes a 30-foot building and parking setback from the future right-of-way line of Mount Holly Road and existing right-of-way line of Creston Circle. Commits to a contribution of $125,000 to the City of Charlotte Affordable Housing Trust Fund prior to the last CO. Dedicates that large area in green to Mecklenburg County for future greenway development. Provides a 50-foot Class C buffer where adjacent to single-family zoning. Commits to installing an ADA compliant CATS bus waiting pad on Mount Holly Road. Provides a minimum 8,000 square feet of improved open space, as well as providing a number of transportation improvements, including turn lanes and a 12-foot multi-use path along Mount Holly Road, and improving the pedestrian infrastructure on Creston Circle. Since the previous zoning committee, as I mentioned, the petitioner reduced the number of units from 288 to 268, and also committed to the, so you see buildings 1 and 2 at the top left of your screen. The front of those buildings will be limited to 2 stories. The backside could be 3 stories. Petitioner also addressed outstanding issues related to transportation and urban forestry. Despite those changes, staff still feels or does not recommend approval of the petition. It still is more of a neighborhood 2 outcome, inconsistent with the neighborhood 1 place type, and also lacks connectivity to the to services nearby. Be happy to take questions.
Questions from the committee? Lansdale.
Last, Joe, can you talk a little bit, can you expound on connectivity to services nearby? You know, we talk about 5-minute, 10-minute neighborhoods, access that you don't have to take vehicular trips to get across the road. Can you talk a little bit about that piece that you're concerned with?
Sure. While the site is quarter or third mile from the neighborhood center and services at Mount Holly Road, Mount Holly Huntersville Road, there is no pedestrian infrastructure to connect residents of that future development to those services.
And thanks. And just help me understand that when we look at the intersection between Latta Avenue and this parcel, were there any suggestions for pedestrian crossings or improvements across Mount Holly Road at that point?
I don't believe so. CDOT can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's any planned improvements for pedestrian connectivity across Mount Holly Road.
Yes, this is Patrick with CDOT. At this time, there is no sidewalk along the north side of Mount Holly Road. So there will be ramps provided for the new multi-use path and pedestrian facilities on the development side and at Creston Circle. But at this time, it's unlikely that a crossing would be allowed. Mount Holly is also an NCDOT facility, so they would have their opinions and standards on that as well to follow. That would be most likely addressed during the permitting phase if there is the opportunity to cross from other development sidewalks that may come along over the project phase.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, just for my peers on the board here, you know, it's hard on the state road because the state has a rule that if there is no facility across from a prepared or planned facility, the state will not require a connection to that facility. So it's up to us to make sure that when we do approve these products, these rezonings, that we're ensuring that we're making every effort to have a broader impact for accessibility and to fully achieve the 10-minute neighborhoods. And for staff, for Joe and others, would like to have seen this 10-minute neighborhood be pulled from the petition if we've had such a strong feeling that it was part of the reason why it was not to be supported. So it's difficult to see that it should state for me, in my mind, that the petition does not facilitate a 10-minute neighborhood, whereas it says could facilitate a neighborhood. So with those reasons, will be my opposition to this. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? What's that? We do have enough to vote, but it's going to delay for Harvey, but we can slowly make a motion.
Joe, same old, same old. This is inconsistent because of the form, correct? Of the buildings. That's the primary reason that we have inconsistency here.
Well, multifamily would be inconsistent with. Multifamily in the form of apartments are inconsistent with neighborhood 1.
Okay. But these are townhomes, right?
These are apartments.
Apartments.
Right.
Okay. That was my delay.
All right, just would anyone like to make the motion then, or make a motion?
I will make a motion slowly. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement as prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-160 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement
That you'll have to create.
that we will create shortly. Yes, I'm at the end. RJ isn't back, so I've done as much delaying as I can do on that one. So that's, did I say the right thing? I finished, right? Yeah. An adoption of a consistency statement that we will provide there.
This is Gaston. I second that motion.
Properly moved and seconded. We will, take an initial vote and we will probably revote when Harvey returns if it does not pass or go the other way. Really would hope it's a quick break. Joe, you need an actual consistency statement, but we can see if this moves forward or not before we craft it, or are we?
Do we need that statement prior to the?
Yeah, you would need to.
Yeah, we would need it before the vote. That's my thought.
Okay. I will say two things. This supports bringing diverse housing types to this particular portion of the community. And though it does not support every mode of travel or transit for a 10-minute neighborhood, I do believe that it is close enough to the commercial center to warrant consideration for that part of the adventure. Those would be the things that I would find a consistency with. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything.
Okay. Who's voting in favor of that consistency statement and approval? Raise your hand and say aye. All right. Hold on one moment. Ronnie?
Got in some.
We're at the point we're taking a vote on number 12, 2022-160. Are you familiar and do you feel comfortable voting? A motion has been made to approve it. And since staff doesn't support it, the consistency statement has been made. Can you restate that for him?
That this provides additional diversity of housing types in the area. And also, although it does not support 10-minute neighborhoods for all modalities, it is approximately close enough to the commercial center to conform to the spirit of the notion of 10-minute neighborhood.
Okay. And we're voting. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. That is 3, and opposed? Aye. Nay. All right, so we need to have a 4 vote. Is there a counter motion or an additional motion? The obvious one would be to deny this petition. But we could option to defer.
Yeah, and if no action's taken, it's deferred automatically.
Correct.
Yeah, it's deferred automatically because it was a 3-3. If we don't do, if we don't, we can put another motion in, but if
it's only 3.
So it's deferred.
So it's deferred unless we do something else. Are there any additional motions anyone would like to make? All right, in the interest of keeping the meeting moving, let's go on. That is deferred then. All right, item number 13, rezoning petition 2022-175 by Rocky River Holdings LLC. Dave.
All right, 2021-175 is just over 38 acres on Rocky River Road. It is currently zoned R3, and the proposed zoning is for R8 MF conditional. The policy map recommends neighborhood 1. We do have some neighborhood center just across the street there, pretty much adjacent, or excuse me, across from Back Creek Church Road. The proposal at hearing was for up to 200 single-family attached residential units. Access would be from Rocky River Road and that future eastern circumferential road. 8-foot planting strip, 12-foot multi-use path along Rocky River is being provided. Bicycle facilities also would be provided by locating the curb and gutter 30 feet from Rocky River Road center line and then installing a 12-foot multi-use path. Thus propose an internal network of public streets with 6-foot sidewalks and 8-foot planting strips. New turn lane, parentheses DOT at intersections on Rocky River Road. Architectural standards have been incorporated into the conditional notes. Maximum would be 4 units per building. They also are providing a 4-foot berm along Rocky River Road. There's a 1/4 acre of improved open space areas. There's also a dedication of a minimum of 1.5 acres to Mecklenburg County for the purpose of a public park, 30-foot Class C buffer adjacent to existing multifamily residential, and a 50-foot Class C buffer adjacent to single-family residential has been proposed, and also illustrates proposed internal walking trail. There have been no significant changes after the public hearing aside to address some outstanding issues. We still have just a few related to site and building design, nothing significant that would change the overall outcome of the site, just still working through some zoning items with our plan reviewers in that section just to get through. But again, nothing that would change the layout significantly, and nothing that we feel wouldn't be addressed upon resubmittal. Again, it is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation. This comes in at about a little less than probably 5 DUA. It says 6. I think there's somewhere around, I think closer to the lower 5 range. No real adjacencies to, existing single family. It's adjacent right next door to another R8 petition off of Hodges Meadow Lane and Bailey Run Road. This will have connectivity through that. So we do have 2 adjacent projects that are very similar in nature and will be providing that internal street network. The construction of that future eastern circumferential road and that dedication of over 1.5 acres to County Park and Rec were all also contributing factors for this project that would provide some public benefits. So again, staff does recommend approval, and we'll take any questions you have.
Questions? Lansdale, looks like you have one.
I would be glad to make a motion at the appropriate time.
Okay. Any questions?
I just had a question. Is the circumferential road that's to the south, is that to serve the neighborhood services, neighborhood center parcel?
I believe it's a larger road project that takes it all the way down to off the plaza, I believe. I don't see that. Do you have any insight as to how wide and vast that road is going to be? I think it connects a pretty significant portion of this side of the city. It runs all the way back down to where circumferential road is in its existing state, but I don't know, Jake, if you guys have any additional info on that one.
Yeah, so that's a comprehensive transportation plan alignment. So that's a long-term future roadway. And so as part of the petition, they are reserving their portion of it. And it goes from, I believe, eventually connects into Back Creek and University, and then goes all the way to the south to Albemarle Road in the future. So it's a long-term connection that will likely be built out or reserved in sections as properties are developed along the way.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take a motion.
This is Lansdale. This is a great example for petitioners to take a look at. We see some incredible opportunities to design active mobility and safe active mobility along major state roads within local public streets to not have on-street parking and still make a design standard that is safe and accessible for all. Therefore, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff, to this petition, I move and recommend the approval of petition number 2022175 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
This is Gaston. I second that motion.
Properly moved by Lansdale, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0. I'll give everyone a moment if anyone from 177 needs to enter the room or if they'd happen to step out or anything. Obviously, you're also welcome to stay in the other room if you want. It's moving on to item number 14, rezoning petition 2022-177 by Appaloosa Real Estate Partners. Please don't block the screen is the only thing I'll say.
Yeah, you can stand there somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You ready?
Is anyone counting if we're over the fire code?
Probably are.
So please remain, please show discretion and keep your voices down. We do need to continue about the work that we have here, and it's a significant debate we'd like to have. Michael, go right ahead.
So run us through this one. So 2022-177 is 15.5 acres on Mallard Creek and Galloway Road. It's currently zoned R3. Proposed zoning is for UR2 conditional. Policy map does recommend neighborhood 1 for this parcel. The proposal that was presented at a hearing was up to 186 for sale townhome style units with limit building height to 40 feet. Would provide an 8-foot planting strip and 12-foot multi-use sidewalk along Mallard Creek Road, and then 8 and 8 along Galloway Road. Would provide an ADA compliant bus pad along Mallard Creek Road as well. Access is provided to the site from Mallard Creek Road and Galloway Road. A 30-foot setback from the future back of curb along Mallard Creek and Galloway Road is also provided. Usable common open space would be also provided throughout the site, as well as walkways that would connect all entrances to sidewalks along public and private streets. And architectural standards, including building materials, have been incorporated into the conditional notes. To have some changes after the public hearing, the number of units were reduced from 186 to 156. A 6-foot tall privacy fence along the north and east property lines of the site has been included in this change. It would also limit units to no more than 4 units in a building. Does increase the distance of units from property lines. Also states the principal buildings would have front facades with brick accents. Does propose 8 potential visitor parking spaces, and then added a note that states that the residential uses would be for sale with no more than 20% of the units permitted for rent at any given time, subject to the ability to increase above 20% in response to extenuating circumstances. At this time, staff is continuing to not recommend approval of the petition in its current form. We do have some continued conversations with the petitioner that we're trying to work through, but that's where we stand at this point. Again, it is inconsistent with the policy map recommendation for neighborhood 1, and we will take any questions and turn it over to y'all for any conversation.
Excellent. All right. Questions, comments? I know Russell.
Where to begin? So, yeah, I'm gonna just dive on into this one. So I think the big question on my mind, I think we know what the community's thoughts are. It's pretty clear. And we've gotten some feedback from staff. But what I want to really drill down into, and I think this is probably a teachable moment, the conversion that will happen tomorrow. So this is currently R3. It's going to translate, if I read it correctly, over to N1A. So by right, and for those of you who are not familiar with the term, what by right means that I'm just going to use R3 because that's the current example. If somebody wanted to develop this site, so long as they put 3 units per acre of land, they could do that without approval. They can knock down trees tomorrow, provided they have the financing to do so. With that translation to N1A, how many potential units do we think would be allowed by right?
That's a good question because we don't have density calculations like we do now with R3, so we don't have an exact math formula. But if you consider it's 15 acres, so about 45 units, if they are all triplexes, you could maybe get upwards of 130, 140, but that's probably not likely, given you have infrastructure requirements, stormwater requirements, open space requirements. So that's probably going to be less than that, but it's hard to give an exact number because again, we don't have density calculations like we have in our current ordinance.
And no, I appreciate that. That's good information, Dave. So then the second question behind that is that understanding this is going to translate, because this is a conditional zoning, that means that there is the ability for the community to impart their wishes on the design. Is that an accurate statement?
That's correct. Yeah, the conditional plans have lots of opportunity for public input and comment. Conventional by right development, that's something that again happens just by right. So this conditional process allows for that public input and coordination. By right development, like I said, doesn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I just wanted to lift that up and highlight that, because I think that's an important distinction here that could get lost, but I just want to kind of set the table for everybody as we move forward, because I think that's an important consideration as we look at this rezoning petition.
One of the many things we have to consider. Welton, and then, so Lansdale, you were signaling?
No.
Oh.
What's the theory first? I'll go ahead and go.
Go right ahead.
This is Commissioner Welton. I did want to say to everybody, obviously we have a room full of folks here today, and I appreciate everybody's feedback that you provided. Not sure if I really love getting as many emails, but that's another story. I appreciate the ones that people took time to actually not cut and paste. Those were the ones that were most effective, and I would have a teachable moment on that. And I'm kind of going to piggyback on what Will said here. I did receive some comments that these were apartments, and this is not. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that. This particular thing, if I'm reading correctly, it would be under 1,300 trips a day. The land is already entitled to 500. I don't know if anybody on CDOT can give me, and I meant to look this up, the traffic counts on Galloway and Mallard Creek. I don't know if somebody on CDOT can do that.
I don't believe we have traffic counts specifically on hand.
Okay.
Galloway and Mallard Creek.
I meant to ask you guys before the meeting, and I apologize. I thought about it while I was at home, and that doesn't do me any good here. So I appreciate you for that. Also, there were comments about the schools being overcrowded, and we did get comments back from Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. And there are 3 schools that were going to be affected by this particular development. And there were Mallard Creek Elementary, Ridge Road Middle, and Mallard Creek High. Mallard Creek High was going to remain at its current utilization. Ridge Road would increase from 1% in their utilization, and Mallard Creek would increase 3% in their utilization. So the effect of this, I just wanted to make sure that that was something there. Someone also asked in their commentary about neighborhood character overlays. And that information is available on the UDO website. I would ask for you to read it very carefully because it does have constraints in how it can be used. And if you have not looked at that, I would again urge you to take a look at that and see what it actually says if that is what you want to do. Be careful what you ask for. And those are my comments for now. I will give somebody else a chance to chat, and I'm sure we'll come back around to this party.
Lansdale, go ahead.
This is Lansdale. Yeah, just as a quick search, I think it's around 15,000 average daily traffic volume for Mallard Creek at this intersection with Galloway. I do have some concerns or questions regarding the ingress and egress the crossings of the CDOT maintained Lexington approach road. Will there be sidewalk crossings on leaving the parcel onto Lexington as part of the U6028 project?
So this petition has committed to extending the MUP on Mallard Creek to Lexington.
Okay, but no intersection improvements at Lexington or Galloway, is that correct?
There's a STIP project along Mallard Creek that this project is, well, this petition is coordinating with U 6028 right away 2025 construction 2027. They'll be doing the improvements.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Douglas, go right ahead. Oh, are you up also?
There's some,
I can go after you.
Okay, well, then Russell.
this question is for Dave, I guess. Dave, I was looking at some of the previous rezonings and trying to get a notion. One of the things that I was getting some pushback in the commentary I received was on density. And from Galloway Road to, and these are very round numbers, into whatever that first street is, now I can't remember the name, Park Lane Drive, am I saying that correctly? Park Lee Drive, yeah. Roughly-ish half a mile. Going the other direction to the end of Galloway, there is a development there that is UR2. I don't know if the development is called Kenwick. But the challenge I had there was that the first parcel there at Garrison Road and Galloway, there is I think it's a cluster of about 7 buildings that is 38 units. It is on 2.8 acres. And my DUI says that's 30 or 13.5. And the commentary was there is no density in our neighborhood. And I see this and I have questions. The parcel directly across that is already currently zoned R12 MF, I believe. We have a number of other UR2s in there. I used to work up on Claude Freeman Drive, and none of this stuff was there, by the way, when I worked up there. But there is, I guess, the apartment complex Infinity 260. Is that the name of it? That is a UR2, and it's 260 apartments right there by the commercial center. So I do believe that there is density in the region. And there are 2 shopping centers there. There's Cochrane Common and Mallard Crossing. Both Cochrane Commons, Newtown, sorry, is got to be only a quarter of a mile away. I know that everything is accurate on Google, so you draw the little line, and it's less than a quarter of a mile, I believe. And there's sidewalk there, so there's a pedestrian facility for us. So again, I'm finding that, where do we want to place the growth? Do we want to place it close to things that people are going to go to and perhaps have an option for not being in a car, or do we not? And so those are, I'm putting these out, and it's like, those are things that kind of are contrary, I guess, to what I believe staff's non-support is. And it may be a part of the thing that you guys are working through.
And I think that's some of the things we're still trying to work on and get some of the context a little bit more appropriate around some of the adjacent single family. Because as you get to this part, that's primarily the land use. There is some density in this corridor. And I don't think that we are necessarily opposed to some of that. I think it's really dialed into form, context, and how we're really treating some of those edges.
Yeah, on the backside of this development, this subdivision, on Copper Plate Road, is a cul-de-sac. 200 feet away from that back property line, you'll find Cruden. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. Cruden Drive, and there are 4 properties: 11033, 11029, 11025, and 11021. 11033 is 0.1 acres, which when you take those 4 together, that's less, it's roughly-ish a half an acre. But that entire street has properties of this size. I believe the density is there already and previously existing and has been for some time. So again, those are just some of my comments.
Russell.
Risk of opening up something else here. I want to follow up on Commissioner Welton's thought on neighborhood character overlays. And Dave, just in broad terms, can you explain what that is?
That's an area that we haven't really delved into on our team because it's not necessarily a rezoning item that we'll get into, but essentially they are character overlays that would incorporate elements of existing neighborhoods. They have to have a certain time frame of how long those neighborhoods have existed for them to be eligible. And then there's an incorporation of essentially standards that would work to allow for development that would occur to better, I wouldn't say mimic, but for lack of a better term, be more contextually sensitive to what's existing, if that's the best way I could probably put it. Because again, I'm not into all the details of what those overlays are because we just don't handle that much on our side on the rezoning team.
A number of the longer serving members on this body helped that process go through and make sure it was included. Dave's correct. It is something that is decided on by the community, though. I would say that's the one thing he didn't kind of have built into it.
Right.
So you do need to have a lot of neighbors agreeing to the same 3, 4, 5, 6 items that you're going to put some constraint on.
Right. And again, this is just educational, not trying to put anybody on the spot or put anybody out. I think this is information that we have to have. Obviously, there's interest here. We've got some 60-odd people in this room. And I want them to hear firsthand from not only planning professionals, but the people who make these decisions. So based on that, how would a neighborhood character overlay apply to this rezoning?
Yeah, well, I'm going to jump in here because if memory serves correctly, neighborhood overlays are almost on a street by street basis. It is not, let's go and wham 20 streets. It is one of those things that your block decides they're going to maintain character. And it was physical constraints. It was things like setbacks. And I think there were some materials in there. It's been a while, but
Scaling, massing.
yeah, massing and scaling. That's, that type of thing. It's there. Again, it can be with a neighborhood that's well organized, you can apply it to a whole neighborhood. But, it's like trying to get everybody to join an HOA after you built a neighborhood. The phrase "good luck with that" sometimes comes about. One more point I wanted to make for a while I've got the mic, because I like to talk, right? And taking a look at the quality of life indicator, and one of the comments about one of the points I find is that this particular project adds some diversity of housing types. The neighborhood or the quality of life indicator, and that's maintained by not planning and an outside organization, but it said, it asked what percentage was single family houses. It was 100% until 2020. For that particular neighborhood, and I cannot remember what the NPA is. Next time they come to Planning Commission and ask us to find ourselves by NPA. But I implore everybody here to take a look at the quality of life indicator, find your neighborhood, and it will give you information about the composition of your neighborhood. And again, it was 100% until about 2020. Things have begun to change, and they've begun to change probably 5 years ago. I'm done.
And last question. Sorry, Commissioner Russell. Last question about NCOs. Does that work on a neighboring property? So would the person that owned the property next to mine have to agree? I can't impose that upon if I don't own that property.
I believe the threshold is 75.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's 75%. One of those.
I believe. I mean, we can verify that, but it's certainly 51. If it's not 75.
It's a simple majority, but not.
Pretty sure it's a significant majority.
Thank you.
Yeah, 51%. Petition shall be signed by property owners representing at least 51% of the land area and 51% of the lots within the proposed district. So the lot would have to be included in the district, and then 51% have to sign on to agree to it.
But you can't include properties that are outside of the contiguous area. like
Good question.
adjacent streets around the corner, down the road, et cetera.
Yeah, I think there are district boundary requirements, but again, without sitting here and trying to read through it, it's, again, it's not something I'm incredibly well versed in on that.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Any other comments? Points of debate? Getting back to part of the reason or the reasons as stated by staff, some of it, if I understand correctly, comes back down to form as well? Or is it mostly what the lack of, well, that's the inconsistency argument, right?
Yeah, I think for us, the inconsistency is there because we're looking at essentially more of a planned kind of multifamily URs, not a translated N1 district. A lot of the standards that are in there aren't applicable to the N1 place type. So that's a concern. Again, I think we'd like to continue to work to see how we can better treat some of the edges around the single family and see if there's some other mix of housing types and unit counts that can be worked into the petition. Does that answer your
Yes.
question? Okay.
Yes. Because we have a mix of basically tries and quads at this point, all in the townhome form.
Right.
Go
ahead.
I do have one more quick question for CDOT. So I understand that this road is slated for right of way in 25 and construction in 27. Can you just give us a high level of what that construction will be and what Mallard Creek Road will turn into from this point at 27?
Hey, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Sorry.
Cool. Yeah, no, NCDOT is widening Mallard Creek. I'm having some technical difficulties here, so I can't access the actual site plan here. But they're widening Mallard Creek. You can, just to the south of that intersection, you can see the approximate width of what it will be. There's also a MUP that will go along the length of Mallard Creek, and it's for a pretty long stretch here, and it includes this parcel. But I'm having some technical difficulties here. I can't access the actual site plan for you.
I'll jump in. It's 4 lanes from Mallard Creek Church up to near 485 to complete that section along there, plus some medians to restrict some turning movements and things like that. So essentially it'd be a 4-lane facility all the way between Mallard Creek Church and 485 upon resolution.
With turn lanes and all that.
Yep.
Action.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
Jacob, perhaps mythologically, I heard that Galloway was going to also be extended across 85. Is that a project that's real, or did I just hear it?
At this point, it's a potential project, but not on the radar until some of the recent rezoning petitions in the area.
Okay.
I've had a resurgence and discussions about the potential for that bridge. So there's ongoing discussions, but at this point, it's not a funded or planned project.
Still mythological. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Before we move on, I do want to say thank you. We appreciate the emails. I read every single one. And the community involvement portion of this is not a portion that we take lightly. It is critical, and for demonstration of that, right now, none of us is a big-time developer. We are the community. We are y'all. We live in neighborhoods. We got active probably somewhere along the way, not unlike you guys, and we somehow ended up here. So your comments, your words are relevant to us, and we thank you for them and your attendance here. I hope everybody has a little bit more of understanding of how this process works. Regardless, I think our entire city can benefit from having more interested citizens. So thank you to everyone who's attending. Now, we'll need to make a motion on this one. And we are currently, staff is in a not recommend. So keep that in mind. If we are going forward, we'll need to create the consistency statement.
This is Commissioner Walton, I'll make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-177 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement that consists of the following 3 points. This particular project provides an additional diversity of housing types for an area that has been predominantly single family. I find that this particular petition is close to neighborhood services and commercial uses with an existing pedestrian infrastructure that facilitates the 10-minute neighborhood notion. And we also find that this petition is in close proximity to a job creation center, which works well with the city's economic development plans.
Is there a second?
This is Gaston. I second that motion.
Properly moved by Walton and seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have 2. That motion does not move forward.
Can we just get a record of
What's
the
that?
no's? Can we just get a record of
Sure,
the no
certainly.
support?
That is Welton and Gaston were the aye votes. Oh, and I guess I should ask for the nays. All those opposed, say nay. Nay. That's Lansdale, Gusman, Russell, Harvey. We're not in the clear yet, guys.
No.
Um, Well, we can either, well, we don't have a clear vote. Are there any additional motions since that one did not pass?
Commissioner Russell. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to deny this petition, move that we recommend denial of petition number 2022-177 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
I'll be second.
Properly moved by Russell, seconded by Harvey. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Nay.
And I think we can take your initial motion and consistency points.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah,
Previous as your minority.
yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, that motion to deny passes 4-2. That is the well, for the crowd, to be clear, that doesn't stop the process. All that does is send the city council an indication that this body does not recommend approval at this point. However, keep in mind, I've been in your seat and things have happened, didn't go the way I wanted. Sometimes we have to trust the system. Thank you for your involvement. I mean, you're more than welcome to stick around for the last 7 if you want. I know this is fun, but I'll give you a moment to clear the room if you're leaving.
I'm saying that, yes, that would be my concern. Yeah.
If this developer doesn't go through, they're gonna sell it to somebody else. And they're gonna start the process over again. Go for a different product.
Right. So, there's just they're rental. I mean, they started out, and they can be rental, and they can make it mine or whatever they do. Nothing says it has to be brick or anything.
Yeah, and if you go up that road, there is still banks that property. It's like.
But you know what, if you go Galloway, because that's all I have to go there. So if you go down Galloway, stop up for Zoom, I'll do that.
All right, for the rest of us, we got a little more work to do.
Yeah, so I was like.
So. All right, item number 15, rezoning petition 2022-179 by Coral Reef Investment Properties. Holly, can you yell over the? Ben?
This site is a little over 5.5 acres located along the east and west sides of Charlotte Park Drive, south of Presley Road and west of Interstate 77. This is just outside of a lot of those TOD areas we would typically see. So I'll go ahead and put it out there. It's not TOD applicable, but it is generally located close to those corridors. The existing zoning is B2, or as of tomorrow, CG, general commercial. The proposed zoning is to go to mixed use development conditional. The 2040 policy map calls for both the neighborhood 2 and commercial place types. I'll go ahead and go over the consistency for this request. So it is consistent with the neighborhood 2 policy map recommendation, but for the portion recommended for commercial, it is inconsistent. We're just, if approved, that commercial portion would go to neighborhood 2 just to be in alignment with the development on a whole being a neighborhood 2 proposal. But I'll note that that commercial piece highlighted is being preserved solely for open space. This is the proposal that was presented at public hearing, which at the time was for no more than 210 multifamily units and up to 4,000 square feet of retail, EDE, general and medical office uses, and personal service uses as allowed in the MUD district. It prohibited a number of the more noxious uses like auto service stations or general car-centric uses that we may not want here, as storage buildings and that sort of thing. Again, at the time of the public hearing, it limited building height to 85 feet, specified some 16-foot setbacks along Presley Road, Charlotte Park Drive, Yorkwood Drive, and Pioneer Park Drive. Again, that parcel highlighted for open space really is just open space. There is some existing parking that may remain on the site just to the very rightmost portion of the open space parcel. That little portion that isn't shown in green of that parcel is a couple of existing parking spaces. It provides a number of architectural standards, and that is the sum of that proposal. Since the public hearing, which if you recall, we were not recommending approval of in its current form, we have seen some significant steps forward in this petition. So they have reduced the height to 75 feet from 85 and changed the proposed unit count from 210 to 250. And added a commitment to provide 12 workforce housing units offered at 80 to 90% AMI. And they also addressed all outstanding issues related to transportation, which included the installation of a CATS bus pad, for example, on Presley Road. So with those significant steps forward, staff is recommending approval of this petition. There's a technical revision listed in your staff analysis regarding term duration of those 12 workforce housing units. So I spoke to the petitioner team and they are willing to add a minimum of a 30-year commitment that they will maintain those units for. That doesn't mean there's a maximum necessarily, it's just a 30-year minimum term duration. So after this meeting, we should have all of those details buttoned up and no outstanding issues or technical revisions will remain. It is close to a number of major transportation corridors. It doesn't have proximity to sensitive areas like neighborhood 1 place types or single family existing housing. So it is a good site to see some infill development. And I should have noted this previously, but it is phase 2 of a project in which phase 1 is along the south side of Pioneer Park Drive, which is developing by right under B2. So we're already getting multifamily housing here, and this is just continuation of that project. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Lansdale, go right ahead.
Yes, a quick question on the corner of Presley Road and Charlotte Park Drive. Can you talk about the line of sight there? I'm trying to get my head around what that building corner looks like. I appreciate that kind of effort in previous petitions that talk about that, but I don't see any line of sight reference in the petitioner's submission for the corner there. I think it's addressed on the Yorkwood, but not on the Presley side. So I'm just trying to see how that building corner will actually look on the Presley Road and Charlotte Park Drive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any additional insights beyond what the site plan shows, which, go back to the site plan side.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
there, but I.
It's the site triangle
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's associated with that corner. So when someone's trying to turn left on the park, up from Park Drive on Presley, how far into the road in the encroached area will they have to come? The way it seems to me that the way the sidewalk on Presley Road does, it aligns itself not into the sidewalk across the street. So the cars will have to kind of pull into that space there. So I'm just trying to get a visual, because it's really hard for me to tell on the drawing the way it's presented there, what that looks like.
Jake, they would need to meet.
Hey, this is Patrick with CDOT. I think I can help address that. CDOT does have a site distance policy, which is published to the public, and that would need to be followed during the permitting of the project. So that basically will address what your concerns are. They're not showing kind of the cut corner right away that they're showing on the other side of Yorkmont, but we do have a policy in place that requires buildings, columns, any other sort of permanent structures to be located outside of a 50 by 50 triangle on public streets. So that would apply here during the permitting phase, and we would ensure that is in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. If I may have a quick follow-up as well, just as an information request. What was revealed in the comprehensive transportation plan review? Was there anything significant that came out of there? Or was everything A-okay once that review happened? That was my original request.
Yeah,
Question.
yes, the developer did perform the comprehensive transportation review at the request of CDOT. Out of that document, they are proposing to relocate and improve the existing bus stop that's out there on Presley, and they are also upgrading and installing several new pedestrian ramps and sidewalks in the area. Yes.
Great, thank you. And I don't know who to ask this question. It's kind of a pet peeve for me. We learned a little bit about this during COVID. If anybody can remember that time, it's been so long ago.
But it's COVID.
Yes, I don't know. But when we talk about the interior parking deck, I mean, does the UDO address any design standards for interior parking decks of this nature moving forward? It does not. I see a head shake there. So great. Okay. Thank you.
I could talk about some elements we had in it, but they're not there now. So, any other questions?
Back of Kirk sidewalk along Presley. So I do have this.
Harvey, go right ahead.
Just a quick question. I live not too far from here, just understanding how that the area now is mostly industrial. And of course, I know we've approved this other one here, but just thinking about that amount of traffic coming onto Presley Road, and not, unless I'm missing something, I don't see that there's any, real improvement. Because right before you get there, there's a very sharp corner. And there are a couple of strip malls, well, not strip malls, businesses on left and right side who get a number of deliveries, tile deliveries. Are we taking into consideration how the street is being utilized now? And now we're dumping, X amount of traffic onto that street, residential traffic.
So I will just note the traffic generation showed that the entitled uses could generate up to 3,800 trips per day, and this is actually a reduction. The proposed the proposal here, which could be up to 1,355 trips per day. So while that trip generation doesn't necessarily take into account the surrounding uses, we are looking at an overall reduction if this were improved for the entitlements of the site on the trip generation. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Motion would be in order then. Go ahead.
Sure, sorry.
Sorry.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend the approval of petition number 2022-179 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Still second.
Properly moved by Harvey, seconded by Lansdell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is 6-0 approve. Moving on to item number 16, rezoning petition 2022-181 by AJ Klink.
Thank you. This petition 2022-181 is 0.22 acres on North Davidson Street. It's currently zoned TOD-MO. Proposed zoning is for MUD optional. The place type from the 2040 policy map does recommend neighborhood center. The proposal is to allow all uses in MUD, including an EDE with outdoor dining. That would be an existing 1,500 plus square foot residential structure. Would be adaptively reused and improved, as well as an existing just over 1,000 square foot greenhouse. 3 small maturing street trees would be provided on site to satisfy streetscape requirements. With it being located in a transit station area, tree save mitigation, payment in lieu options would be available as described in the Charlotte Tree Ordinance. Does propose the following optional provisions: allow for 3 on-street parking spaces and 1 on-site vehicular pad to satisfy parking associated with the proposed development, allow for the existing structure to encroach into the 14-foot setback along North Davidson Street, essentially just keeping it as is, and allow existing 4-foot planting strip and proposed 5-foot sidewalk to satisfy the public sidewalk associated with the proposed development as generally depicted on the plan. Changes after the hearing did state that add a note stating that street trees would be provided per the tree ordinance, as we mentioned. Did address some other outstanding items, worked with CDOT on some resolution on the sidewalk and planting strip item. Do still have some clarification items on some buffering and screening next to that adjacent single family, but believe from some emails with the petitioner that's been generally resolved. I think that our asks on that are particularly just for some clarification, but I believe those outstanding items are satisfied as well. So really no major outstanding issues at this point on the petition. We do recommend approval. It is consistent with the policy map recommendation for neighborhood center, and we'll take any questions you might have.
Questions, comments? Harry or Lansdell?
Lansdale with a comment. I struggle with this. I'll support the petition, but I struggle with as we transition from these single family home uses to business and we transition these types of parcels that are trying to utilize the existing buildings and the facilities that are there. I see this, again, I'm going to harken back to the first meeting I had about deliveries and access for commercial developments in this type of streetscape. I just am challenged to figure out how, if we have a successful business in here, what that delivery scenario for commercial deliveries is going to look like along North Davidson. So, I'm in support of this, but it's a head scratcher for me. Because as I ride my bike and through the new municipal service district in South Park, as an example, I have to move out into other lanes of traffic while commercial vehicles park in the right of way to deliver products to businesses in those facilities. So it's always a challenge for me. It's a tight space along North Davidson. So it was just mostly a comment, Mr. Chair, but I am in support of this petition.
Thank you for that comment. Anything else? Anyone? I think a motion would be in order, and my only counterpoint would be in these areas where we're trying to preserve that scale and context of what but for community support could probably classify as a historic district of some sort. There are complex trade-offs, exactly like you're pointing out. I think that's a very good point to be made, and we should continue to work towards finding solutions. Motions?
This is Lansdale. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, we move that we recommend the approval of 2022181 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
It's Welton, I'll second that.
Properly moved by Lansdale, seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous, 6-0. Item number 17, rezoning petition 2022-184 by United Air Filter Company. Max.
Good evening. Petition 2022-184 is located on the east side of West Palmer Street, south of West Moorhead Street, and north of the John Belk Freeway. The site is approximately 2.13 acres in size and is developed with an HVAC company. The site is currently zoned I2, General Industrial Conventional Zoning District. The proposed zoning is UMUD, Uptown Mixed Use District, also a conventional zoning district. The UMUD district will translate to the UC Uptown Core District tomorrow. The 2040 policy map recommends the Regional Activity Center place type for this site. The UMUD district is consistent with the Regional Activity Center place type. This is conventional rezoning request with no associated site plan and would allow for all uses permitted in the UMUD zoning district. There are currently no outstanding issues. Staff recommends approval of this petition, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. The map does a good job, I think, of also pointing out it's kind of coming into alignment. Any questions, comments? Motions?
Commissioner Welton, I'll make a motion. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-184 as it appears before us and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Lansdale, second.
Probably moved by Welton and seconded by Lansdale. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes as well, 6-0. Item number 18, rezoning petition 2022-185 by Morningstar Properties. Max, back to you.
The petition 2022-185 is located on the south side of David Cox Road, east of Statesville Road, and north of West W.T. Harris Boulevard. The site is approximately 6.01 acres in size and is developed as a self-storage facility. The site is currently zoned I1 Light Industrial, which is a conventional zoning district. The proposed zoning is I2 General Industrial, also a conventional zoning district. The I2 zoning district will translate to the ML2 zoning district tomorrow. The 2040 policy map recommends manufacturing and logistics place type for this site. The I2 district is consistent with the manufacturing and logistics place type. This is a conventional petition with no associated site plan and would allow for all uses permitted in the I2 district. There are no current outstanding issues, and staff recommends approval of this petition. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions? Or motions for that matter, since we're moving to the fast part of the night.
Yeah, Commissioner Russell. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-185 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Lansdale, second.
Properly moved by Russell, seconded by Lansdale. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That also passes 6-0. Item number 19, rezoning petition 2022-187 by Vista Residential Partners. John, back to you.
It's approximately 14.8 acres on the west side of Creftville Drive, east of Monroe Road, and west of East Independence Boulevard. Site is currently vacant, and it's currently zoned R6 MF CD, multifamily residential conditional. And the proposed zoning is R22 MF CD, multifamily residential conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends neighborhood 2 for the site. It would allow up to 320 multifamily dwelling units. That's the same as what's currently entitled under the older conditional rezoning. But due to changes with stormwater ordinance and the tree ordinance over time, since that original rezoning, the original development plan layout isn't buildable. So they are proposing the rezoning to accommodate those changes in ordinance and be able to develop the site. A maximum building height of 65 feet. They provide a 30-foot building and parking setback from Creffield, minimum 8,000 square feet of improved open space. There's 2 development areas kind of split by the tree save area, and there's I think a small stream that runs through that tree save area. They propose at least one internal pedestrian connection between the 2 development areas. They have a proposed greenway connection through the site from Creffield to McAlpine Creek. And I'll talk a little bit about that and the changes after the hearing. Provides EVs, parking spaces, access via Creffield Drive, and they construct an 8-foot paving strip and 8-foot sidewalk along the frontage, and provides architectural standards for the site. Since the hearing, there was a little bit of confusion as to exactly what the nature of the connection would be. So we talked with Park and Recreation staff about the other multifamily developments in the site and what kind of access they have. And the petitioners clarified that they would be providing it's a private connection through the site from Creffield to McAlpine Creek Greenway, utilizing their internal sidewalk network, and it would connect up to the greenway at the cross-country trail that's along that portion of the rear of McAlpine Creek Park. And that's consistent with how other multifamily developments in that area have access. Staff recommends approval of the petition. It's consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for neighborhood 2, and there's no outstanding issues. I'll take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Lansdale.
Yeah, John, I have a history of understanding that, this area is prone to flooding. And, having run many times on that course, do we have good, high confidence that the petitioner is going to be managing this? Do we have a stormwater statement, and the petitioner is going to be managing the runoff from this site?
Yeah, they do have to meet all the standards of the stormwater ordinance, and the staff did provide just a advisor memo to basically that effect. And then basically the rear of the site is the area that would be tree saved, and the buildings are going to be up closer to Creffield Drive. So hopefully there would be minimal impacts to any of that. And then they would have to treat any stormwater of overflow that they might have according to the ordinance requirements.
Thanks for the confirmation.
Any additional questions or motions?
It's Commissioner Wells, and I'll make a motion.
Right ahead.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move we recommend approval of petition number 2022-187 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Commissioner Russell, second.
Properly moved by Walton, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passes 6-0. Item number 20, rezoning petition 2022-188 by Northbridge LLC. Emma, welcome
Hello,
to the show.
thank you. This site is approximately 6.25 acres located along the south and west side of Windsor Oak Court, west of England Street and north of East Hebron Street. Currently, the site is zoned BP Business Park, and the proposed zoning is I2 General Industrial. The 2040 policy map calls for manufacturing and logistics. This is a conventional petition, therefore there is no associated site plan. Staff does recommend approval for this petition, and the petition is consistent with the 2040 policy map. I will take any questions if the zoning committee has any.
Any question? Terry, Lansdale looks like you have.
Motion at the appropriate time.
All right, I'll take that motion.
Appropriate time, I think.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I recommend approval of the petition number 2022-188 as it appears before us. and the adoption of consistency statement as it appears before us.
It's Welton, I'll second.
Properly moved by Lansdale and seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0. Emma's keeping up her batting average, definitely. All right, item number 21, rezoning petition 2022-190 by Charlotte Pipe and Foundry Company. I feel like I've seen this before.
Thank you. This site is a little over an acre located on the west side of Providence Road, north of Ardsley Road, and south of Moravian Lane. The current zoning is URCCD, Urban Residential Commercial Conditional, and this is for a site plan amendment to that 2011 petition. It's 2011-008. It's a little funky on the policy map. So it is an island of neighborhood 2, almost entirely surrounded by neighborhood center along Providence Road. The reason I believe for that neighborhood, yeah, we're all asking it. No, the reason for that neighborhood 2 designation, I think, was just a result of it being an urban residential zoning district. So even though the actual site plan did not allow for any residential uses, I think the policy map just picked up on the component of urban residential. So I think it was just accidentally missed.
Was URCCD or not?
It's conditional, but I think it was just missed on the policy map.
Okay.
I mean, there's no real reason to leave an island of the neighborhood 2. I think it's just a clerical error, essentially. So with this petition, if approved, it would bring that parcel under neighborhood center in alignment with essentially the rest of that block along Providence Road. So the proposal itself, and this is what was presented at the public hearing, was at the time for up to 40,000 square feet of, again, non-residential uses. One of the changes, though, is that 2011 petition called for reuse of the existing structure and precluded new structures being built on the site. So this site plan amendment would allow for a new structure being built. It doesn't have to be reuse of the existing structure, which frankly, with casual conversations with the petitioner team, sounds like it's in a bit of disrepair, may not be able to be reused at all anyway. And also, if you compare this proposal to the 2011 site plan, you'll note that the 2011 site plan shows some parking between the building and the street frontage, which is typically not something that we want to see, not the standards that we have in our updated districts. So this would relegate parking to the rear and to the north of that site, and it would also accommodate an opaque 6-foot fence along those northern, southern, and western property boundaries shown in that brown line on the site plan there. Commits to a maximum building height of 50 feet, prohibits a number of uses such as self-storage facilities, car washes, medical offices. It's really limited to the non-residential uses, and the petitioner, is Charlotte Pipe and Foundry. So the intent is that they will be using this site for their own uses. Petitioner will upgrade the existing Katz bus stop on the northwest intersection of Ardsley Road and Providence Road, provides a number of architectural standards, and that pretty much sums up the proposal as it stands. Again, the actual non-residential uses is the same as it was essentially listed in that 2011 petition, but the 2011 petition called for the reuse of that existing building on the site. So since the public hearing, just some minor technical revisions addressed, and I don't think no other outstanding issues remain. They addressed the outstanding issue regarding committing to constructing the ADA ramps rather than just providing a funding contribution, and they revised the parking spaces so that they don't extend into the side yards any longer. So it is consistent with that recommendation for neighborhood 2, as I explained, but we do recommend approval of this petition. I think it's overall allows a little bit more flexibility for the site than under the current site plan. So this is an improvement, and it would of course bring the parcel under neighborhood center, which makes more sense for the existing initial plan as well as this one. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Well done.
If it's a CD, then it doesn't translate though, right?
That zoning doesn't, but the place type needed to
The
be.
place type?
The place, yeah,
Oh, okay, all right, yeah,
That's why that.
all right. Never mind, brain fart.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate that. If you can go back to the slide where I think you showed that the $7,500, I think you still have some legacy language in there.
So we keep the proposal, this is the proposal presented at public hearing. That's where we had the changes since
Got it.
public hearing slide. But yeah, just to confirm that contribution was changed instead to committing to install the ADA ramps rather than the funding.
And maybe this is, I don't know what the plans are up and down Providence at that point for sidewalk size and space. But it feels like the 8 foot is consistent with what's there, but I'm not sure. Is it bigger than what's there? And
The plot next door just redeveloped, so I would assume that it had modern
trying to,
amenities, yeah.
trying to do a softball on that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just, I appreciate the petitioner's changes here. So my concerns originally was about the 8 foot sidewalk width with the existing travel spaces along there. And a secondary confirmation, maybe, I don't want to open up for the petitioner to ask questions, but maybe you can ask this, but will the Cats bus stop be ADA compliant as well? Or do we have any information on that?
My understanding is that they would be ADA compliant, but I can try to look at the site plan right now. I'm fairly certain that is the case.
And Commissioner Lance, I'll confirm that the 8 and 8 is consistent with the future Charlotte streets map. And also the streetscape is being offset to account for a future buffered bike lane along Providence Road.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Count on that.
All right, are we still pending an answer or are you, I don't want to, I'm pretty sure that you're not allowed to say you're putting in a sidewalk now without it being ADA. Stop now without, thank you.
Yeah, so as the site plan reads, it says that it'll be 260.02A standards. But I can extra confirm and we can have that as a technical revision just to explicitly state. But you're correct, like in any CATS request is that it would be ADA compliant. So that's typically what we see.
So we'll get confirmation and it'll go in the notes. So at the very least, the petitioner's aware.
That's right. Thank you.
Any other? Douglas isn't allowed to comment anymore on this one. Anyone like to make a motion then?
This is Lansdale. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move we recommend the approval of petition number 2022190 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us with those technical language additions. Thank you.
Commissioner Russell, second.
Probably moved by Lansdale, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is 6-0. Passes. Moving on to item 22, rezoning petition 2022-192 by Ascent Real Estate Capital LLC. Max.
Petition 2022-192 is bound by the east side of Plymouth Avenue, south side of Dunlow Street, the west side of Sylvania Avenue, and the north side of North Tryon Street. The site is approximately 2 acres in size and is currently vacant. The site is currently zoned I2 General Industrial, a conventional zoning district. The proposed zoning is MUD CD, Mixed Use Development District Conditional Zoning District. The 2040 policy map recommends commercial place type for this site. The I2 district is inconsistent with the commercial place type. However, the petition is appropriate and compatible for this location as increases the variety of housing types in the area, creating opportunities for neighborhood scale commercial services. Several parcels near the site along North Tryon Street corridor have recently been rezoned or in the process of requesting rezonings to the MUD CD and MUD optional districts. This represents an ongoing shift in the area to a more urban and mixed-use development pattern. Petition commits to providing a minimum 3,000 square feet of retail space. The proposal includes architectural design standards, and the site is served by the number 11, and number 21 CATS local buses, and is within a 3/4 mile walk of the Parkwood Links Blue Line station, and it's across the street from the Amtrak station for the time being. The proposal for hopefully not too much longer. The proposal calls for the development of 275 multifamily residential units, provides a minimum of 3,000 square feet and a maximum of 8,000 square feet of commercial space, provides a minimum 8-foot sidewalk and 8-foot planting strip on all 5 street frontages abutting the site, commits to providing a buffered bicycle lane along North Tryon Street and along Dalton Avenue, excuse me. Vehicular access to the site is provided via Sylvania Avenue, as well as the shared access with the adjacent multifamily development on Dunlow Street, commits to dedicating an additional street right-of-way as requested by CDOT and NCDOT, architectural design standards related to primary building materials, restricted building materials, screening of solid waste facilities, ground floor entrances with direct connections to the public sidewalk, building massing standards, including blank wall limitations and articulation of facades and roof lines, minimum ground floor transparency requirements, limits the maximum height of the building at 80 feet and provides requirements for height transitions surrounding, adjacent to surrounding residential uses. Commits to site lighting standards such as full cutoff and decorative lights. There are currently no outstanding issues. After the public hearing, the petitioner removed an option for 85 single-family attached townhomes as an alternative to the 275 multifamily units, resolving the site design outstanding issues staff had. Staff recommends approval of this petition, and I am happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Max. Russell, go ahead. It looks like you're ready with the question.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a question. I just got a comment. I just want to say this is not targeting anybody in particular, but man, we missed a golden opportunity with this corner. We really did. This could have been, there's a lot of talk about third place. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, first place is where you live, second place is where you work, and the third place is where you go to escape from one of first or second place. Therefore, third place. This was, man, this could have been an awesome third place, being that it's down the street from, I guess, what is it, that the Foundry place where WSOC is. You're fronting Lockwood. You're on a busy street. Man, this would have just been an awesome third place, retail, nice place for everybody to gather. And I feel like we're going to miss that opportunity by just converting it to a place for more people to live.
Maybe when we redevelop it. Just pointing in the future. Max did it. All right.
That train station is on Norfolk 7 right away.
I'm done.
Any other questions, comments?
This is Melissa.
Go right ahead, Melissa.
Commissioner Gaston, so I have a question. I just want to, so he's removing this petitioner is removing single family attached townhomes and doing multifamily, because I just want to make sure.
Yeah, so as shown on the site plan, on the rezoning plan, it's clearly a multifamily product. They did have language for an option for up to 85 single-family attached townhomes, as opposed to what's shown on the site plan for the 275 multifamily units. And we've asked them to remove that because that would require, I think, a pretty major change to what's shown on the site plan to accommodate that. And they've complied with that request.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Y'all know what to do.
Commissioner Bolton, before I make a motion, I'll just say that I concur with Commissioner Russell. Great deal. There's an opportunity there. Beside that, I do believe that this is a good place for us to go, so I will make a motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-192 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Properly moved by Welton, seconded by Harvey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Some reluctance maybe, but it looks like that's a 6-0. 6-ish. They groan instead of an I, but I'll take it. Thank you.
It was like 75.75.
Right, okay, yeah.
There could have been people standing on that corner and they could have been having fun, not working.
Item number 23, rezoning petition 2022-193 by Brown Group Inc. Mike.
Yeah, I'll be glad to close this out so we can go to the third place or get Will to the third. So this is approximately 19.79 acres located on the east side of LaGranger Road and west of Interstate 85, south of West Mallard Creek Church Road. You can see the site in the context there. It is currently zoned RE1 research and R4 single family residential. The proposed zoning is RE3 research. The 2040 policy map calls for neighborhood 1 and neighborhood 2. You can sort of see that most of the area is calling for neighborhood 2. In this proposal, they're proposing 184 multifamily residential dwelling units. They are dedicating 28 feet of right-of-way from the road center line along LaGranger Road. They will reconstruct LaGranger Road to meet Charles Land Development standards along the site's frontage. They're providing an 8-foot planting strip and 6-foot sidewalk along the site frontage on LaGranger Road. The petition also will have a 37.5-foot Class C buffer along the northern side of the property line and 50-foot Class C buffer along the I-85 property edge. They do commit to an internal sidewalk crosswalk network to connect residences to the buildings on site and the sidewalks along the abutting public streets. They provide open space throughout the site with amenity areas that have landscaping, seating areas, hardscape elements, dog parks, pool, and such. They do provide architectural details, including building materials. There were no real changes after the public hearing. There are no outstanding issues, and staff does recommend approval of this petition. Be glad to take any questions.
Sure, thank you. Lansdale?
Yeah, just a quick question. When you look at the spur, the leg, what do you want to, whatever you want to call that, I'm not sure. That's the proposed gate entrance, the Knox box provided on the left side of this image. Can we confirm that that spur from the dog park on will have no sidewalks, no ability for anyone for active mobility to get from that point to LaGranger?
So the that rear entrance is going to be gated full-time, and LaGranger does not connect to the plan west on the screen as you see it. There's a closed-off facility to the TIA CREF location, and so the only way to travel out from the site is east or north on LaGranger, and so there's sidewalk facilities to connect all residences to that LaGranger piece that will have upgraded sidewalks. But we determined after reviewing the shape of LaGranger Road across the frontage that they do not control, that we did not want site traffic to utilize that second entrance and travel across the frontages of those existing homes. And so we coordinated to have them have that emergency access only. And so that wouldn't be used by anyone on a recurring basis.
So except for emergency, it's a one entrance development.
I believe it was likely a fire requirement for a development this size and to even have that access. Otherwise, we would probably remove it.
Just for me as a comment to the petitioner, it would be great to utilize this particular roadway for emergency as a space for active transportation, active mobility within the site, within the gated community. It seems odd to have the dog park and the sidewalks within the building structure and around parked cars, but having this opportunity at a natural space with a swim adjacent to a swim buffer to not have or not allow that recreational activity to occur within the site as well. So that's, thanks for the clarification for that question.
Any other questions? Anyone wish to make a motion? Wrap up this evening?
Commissioner Gaston, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-193 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Properly moved by Gaston, seconded by Harvey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0.
One opposed.
Oh, sorry. That is 5-1.
Again, for me, as it appears, and the reason why I'm voting no on this, I think there's an opportunity when we're building a road, we're building a space as such as this, with sidewalks present and active, opportunities within the site and the parcel. Not having those types of facilities continue along all new construction is a lost opportunity. Thank you.
Have everything we need, staff? Thank you. Michael? We have nothing else that's on the agenda. Is there any? All right. Motion to adjourn, anyone? Thank you. I'll accept that motion and assume that we have. Yes, looks like everyone agrees. Thank you. Meeting adjourned, everyone. Thank you.